But it is 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning, July the 10th, 2025. This is Lancaster Woodturners Weekly Coffee Hour. My name's John Kelsey. I'll be your moderator today. On the recording, I'm going to post my email address, which is editorkelsey@gmail.com, uh, and invite anybody who stumbles into this, and including any of you who haven't, to subscribe to my channel. We're nearing 1,000 subscribers, believe it or not. I don't know what happens when we go over 1,000, but I'm going to have to find out. Club news, let me see. This coming Saturday is Lancaster Open Shop. Ziegler is on. You want to say anything about that?
Well, we do have our new lathe set up. I think I said that last month. Two new lathes, Powermatic 3520B and a Grizzly that Peter Caddick donated to us. So those are up and running. And then our interactive remote demo for August will be by Dave Landers, and he's got something called an upside down hollowing or something. So that's what he will do in August.
Well, tell us about the. I went over there for a visit there the other day. I'm amazed by what you guys have done with the tools. Who's the guy who took leadership on that, and how'd that work out?
Jim Barr. Jim typically is a quiet guy, but he came up to me several months ago, I think February, and kind of whispered in my ear during a meeting, do you think the tool committee would get upset if I organized the tools? And I said, I don't even know who the tool committee is anymore. So number one, and number two, I said, even if I did know, I'm sure they would not be upset if you organized the tools. So Jim took it under his mantle, and we bought a relatively small tool chest from Harbor Freight. And then Jim bought a bunch of foam and cut out foam for all the tools for each of the cabinets that Barry had made for the lathes and for the central tool supply. We reorganized the place a little bit so that the lathes were positioned better. So if there was a piece flew off the lathe, it would tend to hit the wall and not another turner behind the person. And then the place is, Jim took it upon himself to basically clean the whole place up. So looks more
Wow.
like a reasonable shop now.
How many lathes are in there?
I think we have eight.
So what's the deal if somebody wants to go in there and turn like on a Wednesday afternoon?
Well, they're allowed to turn while Kaufman's is open. And so they need to bring a fellow member with them. They each have to have an operable cell phone in case there's a problem. And they have to leave before Kaufman's closes, of course, because the security system gets turned on. So that's the essence of it. It would be wonderful if people took advantage of it during the week when Kaufman's is open, because it's a pretty nice shop.
Right. It was really looking spiffy when I was there the other day.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you have to be a member of LAW for liability reasons?
Yeah, you do, and I think Ziegler also you were talking about a mandatory safety course. Has that come together yet?
It hasn't formally come together. We'll be talking about that in August. We brought this up a few weeks ago. John, I don't know if we were hosting or you hadn't got on or whatever, but it was before the meeting or the coffee hour about safety procedures and how different chapters go about dealing with safety. I think what we're going to do is require any new member, not just a new member who hasn't turned much, but every new member to go through the safety, basic fundamentals of safety with wood turning and the bandsaw and such things before we turn them loose. So a couple weeks ago at Open Shop, there was a relatively new turner who was getting ready to put a spindle roughing gouge to a cross grain blank. And fortunately, I caught him before he was going to do that. But that just emphasizes the safety, the need for safety.
Well, you said every new member. What about the current members? Wouldn't the same thing have to apply? So at some point, everybody should have a review, or at least a chat.
Yeah, I suppose you're probably right. It'll be interesting to watch their expressions when we say that.
Well, maybe you can make it an attractive thing that would be fun for them to do rather than a burden. Test your safety knowledge. Doug is going to quiz you. you know.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, just as an aside there, John, the actual aquatic plant I work at, most of the accidents occur with people that are five years from retirement and 25 years experience because they become complacent with the tooling. So reminders about safety for us older guys is also a worthwhile exercise.
Well, that's true, and I think I saw Jim Duxbury on today. Is that true? Do I see
Yeah,
Jim?
he's here somewhere.
Yeah, I'm here.
So the other day, Jim, I was watching a video you made at a club. I forget which club it was. You were going to demonstrate a kaleidoscope, which was coincidental with what we talked about last week, I think. But you also made the point that I think you said you started using a joiner when you were 9 years old. And how many years later did you have the accident with your finger, right?
Yeah.
So Doug's right. Maybe people who have a lot of experience. I'm not saying this happened to you, Jim, but they just start to kind of think everything's cool, and they don't take all the precautions they should.
I bandsawed into my hand in 2015, and totally stupid. 60 at the time, as you say, approaching 70. And I don't know. I mean, I think Jim, not to get too into details, but a piece of wood did something that you had never seen or expected. So that was really an accident. But still, it just begs the question: How do you do everything possible to prevent accidents? And I think the other thing you said, Jim, was some of the biggest, most accidents happen when somebody trips and falls. And so, there is one cord at the shop that we need to put a cover over top of. For some reason, somebody picked it up, and we got to put it back.
By far, yes, by far. I teach at the college too. We have and wood turning and woodworking, and by far, way far, falling is way more serious. If you fall over backward, you can't defend yourself. You land on your head. When you back up and trip over a cord or a piece of wood that's laying there and land on your head, more people have been hurt falling by far than any. The accident I had, I ran a piece of wood through joiners for 40 years, and this damn piece went through and stood on end. And it's just, I never seen it happen before or after, and wood is wood. And I don't care how much safety you got. There's 1 in 10 million, and you do 10 million cuts, you're going to get.
I'm not sure if I said this on the forum or not before, but I remember one time early in my career, I went to Rhode Island School of Design on a mission to work with the Tay Frid team on some stuff. And we were in the shop at Risney, the senior furniture shop, and there were some 1-inch cubes of wood lying around near the table saw, a whole lot of them, and nobody had taken ownership of them. Frid shut the electricity off into the shop and called everybody in there and delivered a lecture on safety and tripping hazards and exactly what can happen in the shop when you catch your foot, turn your ankle on one of those damn little blocks of wood.
Yeah.
So
You also got to watch what's happening around you, because when the piece flies out of the table saw and you're standing on the other side of the room, guess what? When you go to some of these schools like Vermont and John Campbell, and you look in the wall and you see the end of a 2x6 stuck in the impression, you know if somebody was standing there, they'd have that in the back of their head.
Oh yeah. I remember at RIT there was a little, like on the side of warplanes, a count of fingers that went into the jointer over the years.
So how many? Can I just a quick question? How many clubs actually have a safety talk during every club meeting? I mean, just a 5-minute safety aside as a part of their agenda.
Hey, Doug. Can you cut your volume a little? You're blowing us away.
Yeah, too much. Okay. Yeah, good.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Is that better?
You're not talking your usual loud. So. Yeah. Thank you.
Is that better? Sorry. How many clubs actually have a 5-minute segment to their monthly agenda at their meetings? We used to, we haven't been doing it recently, but it used to be part of the agenda was a safety moment, and usually pick some topic every at random, but we haven't been doing it the last year or so.
We used to do it. Doug used to do it for us. Doug used to lead it.
If I could jump in here a bit, one of the most effective ways to make the club aware of the safety aspects is to have a safety demonstration at the club level that all of you guys are perfectly capable of giving. You talk a little bit about what you do in your shop for air quality and all that stuff, and then you start getting stories from the audience.
Yeah.
And the stories that come out always are different. They surprise you, but they're going to send shivers through that entire audience, and that's the most effective safety demonstration that I've ever seen and ever done. And I try to do that every 4 or 5 years for my club. And John, many years ago, my first article, as a matter of fact, was a safety test, which I'm going to find and pass around.
That would be
but
good.
Basically, it takes the attitude is you're going to get hurt, guys. You are. Because what we do is dangerous. And it tries to help the turner as he takes the test pinpoint where his weakest spot is.
That's a good way around on it. And what I did about that, I reduced safety to a series of checklists of the lathe and you and the wood, and that's posted somewhere in the shop as well. It's a complicated problem, and I appreciate the attention on it, and I'm glad the club is going to continue to take it up at the monthly meetings. And you're absolutely right, Dennis. We've seen that hundreds of times on this coffee hour. Bert has brought amazing stories of stuff that just happened, and I've had, everybody's had it. Okay, I've taken enough of the hour on that, unless somebody's got a burning thing that must be said.
John, just one comment. There's a word in Pennsylvania Dutch and Lancaster County called schusselijk. That's my biggest concern. I'm in no, and in my mind, care about all the safety stuff. But when I get running too fast, that's what schusselijk means. I'm not paying attention. That's when the accidents will happen. And I'm getting older. I have slowed down, thank goodness. But yeah.
It's often when you do the one last thing that you didn't need doing.
Yep.
Give up when you're tired.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the most important is give up when you're tired. Do it another day. There's always tomorrow.
I say it a little bit differently. I think it's also all of us have different body clocks, and you need to know what your body clock is. Mine ain't worth anything past about 8 o'clock. And so I just got to stop. It's too dangerous for me to be. But everybody's is different. You just got to know where your own body clock is.
Yeah, and that's old guys get into habits and rhythms that are very hard to change too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to move it along. I too have a short keynote about the jig I made following last week's chat, but I see 5 hands up, and there's some from people we don't often hear from. So I'm going to hear from them, and then I'm going to, if there's any time left, I'll show my own show. Michael's there.
Yeah. 2 weeks ago, we were talking about these variable speed motors for slow turning. And there's a really nice setup one of the guys had that had a lot of money tied up in it. And I just wanted to point out that you can, for $15, get a small motor like this on Amazon that you go for 5 revolutions a minute to 20 revolutions a minute. And they work very effectively too.
What are they called on Amazon?
I think I just looked for this one here is a.
I mean, are they stepper motors? Are they just low RPM motors geared? Low RPM? I guess they would be called.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they'll list the different. Yeah, sure. And then you'll get some choices.
Yeah, and then you just hook up like a 12-volt converter to it, and it works great.
Now, any old 12 volts, can you get that out of like a computer, hard drive transformer?
Yeah, I just save my old phone chargers, things like that, and I got a collection of 6-volt and 12-volt converters. Plug it in, and it works great.
Huh.
Michael, I use from Amazon. They're 12-volt DC ones. They have them from like 5 or 10 RPM up to 50 plus.
Yeah.
I use them to rotate my stack of bocce balls for the fun. They're like this.
Well,
And
how do you match the spindle of this to the workpiece or the chuck? That doesn't look like a 1/8 spindle or anything like that.
What I do is I turn a piece of wood that I drill out and put screws out, a screw in the one end, and then make the other end to fit whatever piece I'm turning.
Okay, and then it goes up and down in the rack there to accommodate the size of piece you're working on.
Yeah.
Does
I made this originally for turning my fishing rods, my split king bamboo fly fishing rods, when I was trying to dry them out.
Huh, well, it's a nice setup. Now we're looking at your living room and your partner.
I'm sorry.
Michael, what's the noise level on those small motors?
They're quiet as they'll get out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And does it have a flat part on the shaft right where it comes out, or is it completely round shaft?
It's flat.
Yeah, I had trouble with that. You know what works as a great key? Take one of those electrical spade connectors and stick it in, and it works. You stick it in the hole and it locks it. So, yeah.
All right. Very good stuff. Very interesting. I like the setup. It pairs with, yeah, very nice. Thank you, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Questions or comments for Michael? All right, going to go keep going down the hands. Mike Golka.
Yeah, I've decided, like after I did the epoxy resin inlays, that maybe I should try raising the embossed on some of my turnings and see how that turns out. So I did a little playing around in Fusion 360, and I'm not sure if you can see. There's a little quail on a. It's actually
Take it up a little closer to your face. Take it a little bit away from the camera.
How's that?
Okay, now we can see it better.
Okay. So you can see how that.
Now, what is that anyway? What's the material and
Okay, so this is I got a bunch of Douglas fir lamb beams from one of my neighbors. They were cut-offs from industrial
yeah.
beams, and I use that just for practicing. So it's not the greatest wood. This turned out reasonably well, so I just did a quick little flood coat with epoxy on it, and so yeah.
No, what? No, it's the detail there on there, the inlay or outlay or on surface. Tell me, say what that is again. Now that we can see it, I don't.
Okay, so I don't know if you can see here. It's a little quail.
Yeah.
There's the little the feathers on the top of the head, and it's sitting on some flower
Is that
vines.
out of the wood or cut into the wood?
It's raised from the wood.
How do you do that? What did you do?
Okay, so on this one here, because it's so small, I just had my CNC do the whole thing, but I have a larger piece on that I turned on the lathe, like did the vase, and in this area where the carving will be, I left that raised. So when I take it to my CNC, it'll carve that away.
So that's carved in the wood rather than that's not glued on the surface.
Nope, yep. It's all one solid piece of, well, this is a laminated beam, but it's solid wood. And then the CNC will just take it down to
right
to the level that I would eventually, on the big one that I turned.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
now that's and then the finish is one of those slow epoxies rotated like we were
Yep.
just talking. Yeah.
Yep, I just did this on I used my rotary on my CNC to turn, because I can turn that down to like 1 RPM if I want. It's just a matter of, you know. But again, you need the computer and everything. But because I already have it, I don't mess around with building a standalone one. So.
Nice work, Mike. Any questions for Mike? I think just applause. Nice, very interesting work. Thanks, Mike.
All right.
Hey, Barry Price. We can see you. We have a spotlight on you. Start
Yeah.
talking.
Okay. I showed this unfinished at our picnic. It's a piece of, it was interesting that when I harvested it, well, actually found it at the landfill at the compost facility. And it was copper beech.
Wow, beautiful stuff.
And when I harvested, it was pure blonde, or, natural beech color, amber blonde. And it just sitting in my woodshed without any intervention. Other, I put anchor seal on the ends, but just sitting there, face up, it self-spalted. And I don't know what the mechanism for that happening spontaneously would be. It sat there on my shelf for about 3 years. And I have I cut 3 log sections from what I found and cut them in half into 6 pieces. And 4 of the 6 have similar patterns, and 2 are still as natural beech.
Wow. Let's see the profile, please. Hold it back up so we can see the profile.
I'm sorry?
Pick it up again and hold it so we can see the profile.
Nice shape.
Yeah, now turn it sideways. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Nice shape indeed. Good piece. Great work.
There's the bottom. This part here isn't finished yet.
What'd you finish it with?
Waterlox. That's 2 applications. And after it sits for a couple of days, I'll buff it out in the Beal system.
Looking good. You do Waterlox 2, not 3, right?
I'm sorry?
You would put 2 coats of Waterlox or 3 coats of Waterlox?
2. I may put a 3rd on if when I sand it with the 600 grit prior to buffing it, if I see where it might be getting thin. But it's a pretty fine grain, and it looks like it's sealed up well with 2 coats.
All right. Questions for Barry?
Was it stored near other spalted wood?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Was it stored near other spalted wood?
Yeah, was it stored near other spalted wood?
It was stored near other wood, but none of that wood was, to my knowledge, spalted. It was on a rack with hickory and cherry and maple and just different kinds of wood.
But it was your little outdoor shed, wasn't it?
It was in an outdoor shed without heating or.
And that has a dirt floor, actually, doesn't it? Or I don't remember.
This is a shed that it was on a wood pile actually for 1.5 years.
Okay.
And then I had a larger shed built, and I transferred it to there and didn't pay attention to the grain when I transferred it.
Yeah,
so it could have happened in the wood pile.
Yeah, that's where it would have got it for sure. Yeah. Any more comments for Barry? Okay, I'm gonna see the other guys are all regulars, and I do have a little slideshow. No, I want to hear from Dux. I always want to hear. I can't resist. Duxbury, what do you have today?
Uh-oh. Well, first off, I have a sycamore bowl, a little sycamore bowl.
Good piece.
These are trees that fallen down around the neighborhood, and maybe 5 years ago, at least.
Do you still go out and chainsaw by yourself?
Yes, I do. I've graduated to an electric chainsaw, and I have a huge extension cord, 150 feet long or something. And I don't use that damn gasoline thing unless I have to.
Do you wear chaps? Do you wear Kevlar chaps?
No.
Okay.
I stand to the side, but usually it's so damn hot down here. It's great to have all that stuff, but
Okay.
I do stand out of the way, and in case something happens. My chainsaw is still a Homelite, XL12. I think I bought it in
Yeah, we've seen it, yeah,
1962.
yeah.
But anyway, it still runs, and but it has about 14 pounds compression, and it's not very strong. But I love that electric saw. Anywhere I can plug that in, I plug it in. The other one was an ash bowl. This came out. We got a whole tree of this stuff. There's
Starts with again. Okay.
this ash, just a burn liner. I kind of like the groove in the top. It takes.
Is that undercut as well?
No, it isn't. No.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
This other one is. This is undercut under here, but and then the last one. I saw a demonstration where a guy, Walt Wager, he did a really neat demo, and he saw some earthen pottery out in Arizona or somewhere, but it had a square neck, and he thought that was really neat. In pottery, the square neck comes down about 1/4 inch, and then it has a concave. It has a radius out here. I suppose it makes a better vessel, but I thought that was kind of plain. So I made a radius, a convex or concave,
Yeah.
got in here. But anyway,
So you glued that square up in the blank, I'm guessing. I mean,
no, this is one piece. This is one piece. I told everybody I used a square drill bit, 1.25 square drill bit.
okay, so what did you do there, my friend?
I double cut this on a bandsaw first. Cut this when it was square, cut this radius, and then put these pieces back on and turn it sideways and then cut it again. That's a neat process that carvers use a lot of that, double cutting, because you can put a face view on the piece of wood and a side view. When you cut the face view out, you tape the pieces back on, turn it sideways and cut the sideways. And then you've got the blanked out. You understand that? Did I say it right?
We get it, but we would like to see process pictures someday.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe
See how
someday.
you made that. How you made that? I mean, think about it, guys. How the hell did he do that?
Well, you get this when you cut the piece. When this is square, and you cut this piece out, you get a piece that long.
But is the square hole in? How do you get the square hole in there? Are you gluing
Well,
that?
no, I drill this round and I rasp it out.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. Okay.
Yeah, I rasp it out.
Yeah. Well, that's my answer.
But the neck is done double cutting.
Hey, Jim, did you draw a picture of that before you went out and actually made it? Did you put it on paper?
Yes, I draw
Hey.
I draw everything. I just.
Can you show us a drawing? Can you show us your shop notes for your prep work? That would be really, really handy.
Okay, do something else. I'll find it.
All right.
These are not in alphabetical order, you know.
Yeah, I'm going to let him go and find it. I'm going to grab the spotlight because I got this little keynote I want to show you that came about from conversations we had on here. So I'm going to share my screen. You guys see that? I'm going to talk about it. Yeah.
We're good. We're good.
Okay, I needed a 10-point index wheel. I asked you guys how to do it. Bert and Mike from Ontario, and Dux all sent me material, and I ended up with a very simple setup that I just wanted to talk you quickly through. This is what it is. I needed 10 points. I can't get that out of the 24-point index that's built into my lathe, which is a robust Scout with a 14-inch swing. So this is the finished thing. I'm just going to go quickly through what I did to make it, because it was very simple, much simpler than I was prepared for. First, I found a piece of masonite that was big enough and bored a center hole that exactly matched the spindle. And I lined it up with the number one. I used the chuck to clamp it in place, and lined it up with the notch that I have in the number one jaw that I line everything up with. So I cut it round and smooth, and drew an 8-inch circle on it. You can see the number of lines where I'm shooting for an exact 8-inch circle. When I got that, then I go to the protractor, See, I don't have a center anymore. I can't do it with a compass. So I lay the protractor on there and I can position that within the 8-inch circle very exactly and tape it down. Once it's taped down, I can mark 36 degrees around, all the way around, and get my 10 points and draw radial lines that intersect the outer circle that I plan to bore on. Because it's always a problem when you do these things. They're not all the same, and then your project doesn't work the way you want it to. So here's the drilling setup for that. The right angle jig on the drill press table is clamped down, and there's a diagonal line that comes out of that corner that's indexed that's there. That allows me to get the workpiece indexed in that diagonal corner like this. So the workpiece is touching both of the rails. Now I have the jig, that guarantees the radial position. If I keep the workpiece bearing against those two rails, I'm going to be boring on the same radius wherever I bore. That reduces my problem down to just lining up one dimension rather than two. So now I can line up my radial line that goes to my center punched point, and masonite is very uniform. It's easy to work with the diagonal line on the jig, and I can bore very accurately. I could also have made an index pin, bore one hole, bore the second hole, put the index pin in the first hole, and then step your way around. But when you do that, if there's any error, it multiplies times 10, and you wind up with the last hole that's way off. So doing it this way with the carefully marked holes and a setup like this is very, very accurate, and it's repeatable. And I could do it like for other settings besides 10. And to say thank you very much, Bert, for saving my butt from trying to make a 60 hole wheel for a universe of sizes when all I really want is 10 for another project. So the jig base is I make this stuff up in about 2 or 3 foot long pieces of jig base with a keel on them that fits between the ways, which on my lathe is 2 inches, out of 1-inch ply. And I draw a center line on it and then saw it off like it was salami as I need it for jigs. And in this case, I make the jig base bear against the headstock so that index is tight there, and I can clamp it to the ways, and it's on. Then I could put the wheel that I have now made on the spindle and bring the block up behind it so it touches nice and the center line all lines up, and a couple of dabs of hot melt hold it in place, flow some super glue under it, make a dam of hot glue all around it, and it's not going to go anywhere. So now that's correctly positioned. So here's what it looks like close up. The hole in the block that the pin is going to go to, after I've got it all glued up and all that, remember the wheel is bored, it has its 10 holes, and I bore through one and start the hole and go to the drill press to make sure I get a good square hole there. And as it happened, it worked out perfect. All the holes were close, and this is the pin I made. It's just a broken piece of drill bit with a wee tiny chamfer on the end to help it get into the holes. The masonite is very fluffy, so I'm not showing this, but I have a hand countersink that I can use to deburr that hole. And it also makes a little chamfer, so that helps the pin through the block find the hole, each hole, and get in there and hold the rig tight so that there's no moving around while I'm boring for magnets either on the face or the edge of a workpiece that's in the chuck. So this is the original setup again. Just out of OCD habit now, I index the masonite disc to the notch cut in the number 1 jaw, and by habit all my workpieces index to the notch cut in the number 1 jaw. So this becomes a repeatable setup, and it gives me a fighting chance of getting matching pairs of holes in workpieces that will actually work together the way I want them to, rather than not quite, because not quite doesn't do it for the kinds of things I make. So there you are. Thank you very much, guys. Duxbury showed a way of cutting a slot instead of a bored hole and using a little sliver of metal to stop and hold the index wheel. And I can see how that could work pretty good. But in this setup, I can also make a different base and draw a different set of holes with a little taller base to index 8 or 7 or whatever else I might want to do. So this gives me the flexibility, but I probably won't use it. This is probably what a one single purpose 10-hole jig. Okay, if I could
You're,
summarize, I would.
you're using it to cut your holes for the magnets. Is that why you have it?
Yeah. I want to make some 10-wheel things. I want to make some gear. Stop my share if you can, Bowman. I can't do it.
Okay.
Questions and comments? I just wanted to show that as I thought it was based on information I got from you all. I ended up with a very good purpose-made jig that'll suit my purposes, and it was not a big deal to make it.
First off, yeah, John, safety. Unplug your lathe before you start doing this. You don't want that thing to come on under any circumstances when you're using a debris wheel.
You're right about that. Thank you.
Just pull the plug. Yep.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, because I'm not using the index pin, so it's not locked. Because the lathe has a spindle lock. If the spindle is locked, you can't start it. But I won't be locking the spindle with this wheel. Good.
That's right.
Thanks very much.
Is there any reason that you wouldn't use a printed pattern for laying out the holes, and then just glue that on your masonite and use the pattern for the holes?
Well, I would have to have come up 2 flights of stairs and started the laser printer and found a program that could draw that, and it would probably be bigger than the paper that's loaded in the printer. And then I would say, oh, I'm going to stop for lunch. It's just easier to do it the way I did it with drafting tools. Plus, I don't know that there's a guarantee. I have done a lot of fiddling with this, and somebody mentioned this before. I don't think the circles that my printer draws are actually circles. I think they're a little bit oblate by enough to be a mess for what I want.
So you don't necessarily need the circles. All you need is the line and where they intersect to give you your holes.
That's true.
Yeah.
But then I have the problem of centering that on my piece of masonite, because I've already bored the center hole, right? So now I have to center this thing. So in order to do that, my protractor method works works really well.
Come on.
It's all down to operation. Hey?
Where's the fun in using modern technology, Jim? Or John?
Order of operations, right?
I would have done it with a ruler and compass if I'd had a center to work from, but I didn't. I would have had to make a plug with a center in it. That's not accurate now.
My dad always said, I could turn that screw in faster than you run into your shop to get your power driver and bringing it back. It'll be in by the time you get back. So
yeah, that's kind of how I felt about the printer method.
And also, John, you don't need a software upgrade in order to make it run continue in another 5 years.
Well, what I do though, I need to remember when I get upstairs to the printer, I need to remember what I'm doing up here. What did I come up here for? That could take a little while. Okay, that's me on it. Any other comments? I'm going to move on.
Yeah, just one little comment. I really like the way you put the 45-degree angle on the drill press when you had it set up. I think that was really clever. I would have never thought of that.
Oh, thank you. I've had a lot of experience trying to get concentric rings of holes worked out, and I've learned a lot about what you can and can't do.
Hey, John?
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of basket illusion. So I needed an infinite amount of that I could adjust by degrees, eh?
Right.
I discovered what they call a polar graph, which is a round, it's like graph paper, only they're round. You can program into this site, and it's been years now, but it's a site that's free download. You can program in the number of divisions you want. It'll print the graph on an 8x10 piece of paper, cut it out, glue it on. I mean, you're going to have the outside. If you cut that circle, you can put it right over top of your masonite. Like, don't cover your holes, but make it a little bit smaller. Then create a pointer that you can rotate. I used to rotate this thing 3 degrees, 4 degrees, 5 degrees, depending on how many lines I wanted to put around the outside of a vessel. But for anybody else who's doing it, I know you don't want to do it, but a polar graph, look it up. Google search on polar graph, and they're brilliant. You can do a bunch of stuff with it, and you can attain extreme accuracy.
I think I've heard about that. I've never tried. I will tend to fall back to ruler and compass myself, and I'm going to get caught up in it too. I mean, I have some spirals in mind, and I'm going to try and make some. Well, what I am up to making is basically a thing like an odometer that a click moves it ahead one, but I want the coupling to be magnetic rather than gear driven. So that's the next experiment.
Malcolm, thanks for the polar graph. That's going to be helpful. I do off-center turning, and I'd like an accurate circle like that. I just went to the site. It's awesome. Thank you.
All right, polar graph it is. Let me see. I've got some.
I was going to say, if I can speak to that for a second, being a math nerd,
Sure.
That's a polar coordinate system.
Ah.
And you have to be a little careful with your graph paper, because a polar coordinate system is really based on our magic little number pi, 3.14. So you have to really look at your paper, because 180 degrees might be marked on your paper as pi. That's half a circle, half a circumference. So look around to find a sheet of paper that has both of them on. Because if you're not careful, you're going to get like pi divided by 2, where 90 degrees would be listed, and pi at 180, and so on. So make sure you look around enough to find paper that shows both systems on.
I remember that from earlier foolings around. He's right.
If the site calculates it, all you need to do is print it from the site, though. Then you don't have to worry about that laying on a graph paper, right?
If it has a conversion, yes.
I
Okay.
wouldn't be surprised you can get it as an add-in or plug-in for Excel if it's not buried down there somewhere already. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to move along. That's a good information and good advice, and thank you all a lot. And Ron Sheehan.
Hey, John, there you go. I was going to say, it looked like you were spotlighted because nothing was changing, but it looks like you fixed that now.
Yeah. Ron Sheehan,
I haven't been on the coffee hour regularly, but I thought I'd sit in here today. Barry showed a piece of beech wood that reminded me. I still have a piece of this here. This is a spalted beech. It's 10 inches diameter, 3 inches high.
You got to get it in front of your body. Yeah, that's good. We can see it now. Hold still.
And this was, I had a log. This log came from Buchanan's yard out here where James Buchanan mansion is, outside of Lancaster. And anyway, this piece came off of a log that was much too big to put on the lathe. So I sawed it off on a bandsaw. We have an 18-inch bandsaw that'll cut this thing. And I donated that piece for my daughter at a private school where her kids were going. She had four of our grandkids going to a private school up in Connecticut. And they always had an auction every year. The piece that came off the other end of this log sold for $750. So the people were anxious to get it, but it's a very nice grain pattern. I can't get it.
Spectacular turning, Ron. That's just beautiful piece. Great work.
Yeah. So that was at the end of the log. At any rate, you were talking about injury a little bit earlier. I can vouch for definitely it's not a good idea to punch a moving saw blade. So I managed to do that one day. I'm making furniture, and I needed a setup piece, and I always forget to make a piece when I'm cutting out the blanks. So I ended up with a small cutoff, and it was way too small, and I got a kickback and damaged 3 fingers pretty severely. But yeah, keep your hands out of the saw blade.
Yeah, keep your body out of the kickback path.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
It is amazing. Even the smallest little sliver you're cutting off, when that thing comes off the saw, it is amazing the force that comes out of that little piece.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen them stuck in the wall on the back of the saw.
Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot, Ron.
Can we talk a little bit about beech? We've talked a lot about it right now. We have a lot of beech up at our camp, and it seems to me that it goes to spalting really fast, and then it goes by really fast. Is that true with all beech, or is that something that just happened to happen where our camp is? Anybody know?
I have no idea how long this piece was sitting, but it's got a lot of spalting in it.
If you leave it on the ground, it rots in no time.
Yeah, that's what I've found.
Very difficult to get it. I asked Glenn, what from Ireland?
Yeah,
Lucas?
Yep.
When he demonstrated it for us about 5 years ago, because the Europeans turned beech like crazy, and the Brits. And I don't know, you're a lot further south than we are here, but the beech, it's really difficult with spalted beech to get it very uniform. It's really totally punk, and then there'll be some hard stuff. You just got to luck out to get it at the right stage. And he thought maybe it was the winter summer growth pattern, for us that affected that. I don't know.
Or our camp is up towards Erie, so
Yeah.
we're not that much further south.
Oh yeah, no, it's only 75 miles as the crow flies.
Yep.
There's a lot of beech around here. We had a woodlot at our previous hobby farm, and I loved it as good as firewood because it was easy to work with, and I wasn't into turning in those days. But I have some beech that I got here, and I hung on to. But it's really difficult to get it at the right stage.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding too. And once you get it at the right stage, it doesn't take long. By the time I get it home and get around to it, it seems like it's gone by, gotten punky.
It's one of the best spalted patterns you're ever going to get.
Oh, they're
no
gorgeous.
doubt about it.
It looks like Barry and Ron caught it just at the perfect moment.
Yep, I think so. They're lucky.
All right.
Yeah, this piece, I just measured it. It's moved a little bit. It's about an eighth of an or a quarter of an inch difference in distance across long ways and crossways on the grain. But I've seen some moving more than 3/4 of an inch sometimes.
Ron, where did that come from? Wheatland?
Yes.
Yeah, Wheatland, yeah.
Was it that one? Was it the big? I thought it was silver birch or something on the corner there, a monster tree. Doug and I harvested some from there years ago when they took over the property next to Wheatland. So.
Yeah, I think I got some of that also, but I don't know where this came from.
Oh, okay.
It comes through Martin Stolpe.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was the guy. Yep.
Let me see. I'm going to go to. We got Toby and Kai. I'm going to go to Kai, Toby, because I know Kai's not always able to get on, and you are. Is that okay with you? All right, Kai. Spotlight for her.
Hello. Just a video I would like to show. I will share it. I hope it works. Is that full screen now?
Not quite, but we can see it pretty.
That's pretty good.
So after John presented his setup, I remembered that I had to drill some holes into a wooden disc from the top. I used the dividing mechanism of the lace that is built in, so I didn't have to build an extra one. Just the drilling jig was the task to solve. So I remembered I had an old drill stand in the attic that I used before I bought my column drill, and I fixed it to the lace bed using 2 wooden blocks. You can see them here. And I put a rod that I had ground to a point through my collet chuck, and then I aligned the tip of the drill with the point of the metal rod. So that gives me the exact center then in which I wanted to drill. And the drill press or this drill stand really is convenient because you can set the length of the hole or the depth of the hole accurately. You can use different diameters of drills. So that worked fine for me. The only drawback is that you can only use it if you have to drill holes from the top into your workpiece, not from the side. So, John, you had another jig that you showed for drilling from the side. So that might be more convenient then or more universal. But for my purpose, as I already had the drill stand, this worked really good.
I don't see that it would make a difference drilling from the top from the side. I've been experimenting to find a convenient way of drilling from the top exactly. Some of the side is what you want in some situations, from the top in others, and you can usually make it work either way. And it's my observation.
Yeah. Well, with this drill stand, I can't turn the drill around by 90 degrees. It is just
Well,
in
but
one line.
you've got the handle, the machine handle to control the hole too, rather than me pushing on a drill that's just on greased rods.
Yeah, it works really accurately. So it's
Very
nice.
nice setup. Very nice setup. Enviable setup.
Yeah. And just remember that when you showed your setup early on, I stopped that again.
Okay,
that's it.
Comments for Kai?
What was the little black scoop sticking out of the side?
It's his dust system.
Is that a dust collector?
Dust collector.
Just a moment. I'll share
Looks
it again.
like
this one.
Yeah,
that one.
Yeah. That's it's behind the drill stand, and it's a dust collector. Yeah, and I connected it to one of these microphone things where you can bend to get the microphone in a certain position, because it didn't stay in the position I wanted to have it. So I connected it to this thing here, and then now I can bend it in the position I want to have it. And here it's just moved out of the way. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Any more questions? No. Okay.
Thank
then
you.
I'll stop again.
Okay, back over to you. Indeed, Toby. You got 5 minutes.
Okay. I have a few pieces that I've made since I've shown last time. And you seeing that?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. This is maple burl. This is the top view.
You're so bold with the color. I just envy that. I don't have the courage to do that. And whenever I do it, looks garish.
Well, it takes a little practice, but on this particular one here, I did a real light coat of black dye, the trans-tint black, and then I did red over top of it, fire engine red. So that's how it came out. There's a side view of it.
That's gorgeous. That's really beautifully done.
Top notch.
Thank you.
You still amaze me how you keep the dye off that cambium layer or whatever's in there on the edge.
It's real simple. Just use the side of the brush instead of the tips of the bristles.
Oh, Toby, you're talking about black and red. In our church, there's a big wall behind the altar. When they were renovating, they put up red and black on that. I don't remember which they put on first, but they put the one color on. I thought, wow, that really looks awful. And then the next week they put the other color on. Came out with a really wonderful color of purple. It was amazing.
Yep.
You got the balance of the black and red right, and it really made a nice coloration.
Yeah, mixing the colors is really an experiment.
So sometime, Toby, maybe we need to take time to have a discussion about the difference between dye and stain on wood. but just a suggestion.
Yeah, we can Yep.
Well, that's
This
pretty.
is another maple burl. This one's I dyed blue, just blue.
Toby, did you sand the black back?
I did not. I don't like doing that because you can always see the little line streaks, radial sanding. So I just did a light coat of black over the whole thing, and it soaked in more in certain areas than others. So when you put the second coat on top of the red, it comes out and I don't know, it makes it darker in certain areas than not others. This is an interesting shape. I've never done one like this before, but I kind of like it. Bark inclusion there.
Are you going to tell us how you did that?
How I did what? I just turned it.
Okay.
Yeah, and just wash the blue dye over the whole thing after it's all sanded.
Turning a lot of propeller out there when you're turning the opening of that thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of used to that though. When it starts out solid, you don't really notice that you're hitting air. Here's another bright red one.
You're not diluting that red, are you? You're just putting it straight on, right?
No, I dilute it. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep. Sometimes I make it a little bit stronger than others, but it's mostly water.
Those dyes are very powerful.
Yeah. This one has green on the outside. When I got finished with it, I thought, wow, it really looks like a slice of watermelon there.
It really does. Could you serve watermelon chunks in it, or does it not pass the guacamole test?
You could, although getting food down in these little crevices over here, that's why I suggest to people, if it has any bark inclusions, not to put any kind of wet food in it.
Even has a few seeds in it.
Yeah. Yeah, there they are.
Toby, are you filing or sanding the edges? I mean, they look flat.
No.
That's just natural.
What do you mean the edges? The rim? The rim part?
Yeah,
here?
the rim.
No,
Yes.
that's
the rim.
just cut off right here. You can see a little bleed over right in here that I wasn't real careful. It's not noticeable when you're just glancing at it.
You were
Right.
Jim careful there.
Beautiful.
Jim Bowen.
Beautiful stuff.
Thanks. All right, this is another piece of the maple, and it's got a lot of bark on it. This one, I actually just painted the inside brown because I didn't want to go down in there and try and sand all that and bump off this real thin bark edge up here. So the interior is just painted brown. This is before I dyed the outside, and here I dyed the outside. This I put red on and then blue, so it came out a little bit of a magenta color.
Wow.
Aren't you running out of burls?
No, they're everywhere.
Toby, you're using that liquid trans tint dye, right?
Correct. I mix it with water and then put it on with just brush it on. It's basically just dipping it in the dye. I just wash it over. Here's another piece, just a different shape.
I
don't do much dyeing, but I have the powdered dye, different colors.
I do use some Procyon MX, which is powdered, and I mix that up also. And that I find that if you use hot water, it dissolves the powder better than just using cold.
Thanks.
Do you put sanding sealer on before you spray your glossy?
No. Nope. I just once the dye is dry, I just use that as a spray can, the rattle can. I just spray right over top of it. I use that as a sealer coat. My first coat is just a light coat to seal it, and I let that dry, and then successive coats are pretty much an overcoat over top of that sealant, so it doesn't keep soaking into the wood.
And why not sealer, I guess, or did I miss your explanation?
I just never use sealer. I don't find a need for it for myself. I just use the first coat of my spray as a sealer.
Okay.
What are you spraying, Toby?
Krylon triple thick clear coat. Amazon or Walmart, they both carry it.
I use a shellac thin with alcohol as a sealer.
You could do that, I'm sure. This is a little box.
Rust-Oleum has a glossy acrylic also I discovered at Home Depot the other week. I don't know.
I've used that before too, but I found the Krylon, for me, it works, goes on better. I get less drips out of it.
Okay, good idea. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna need to pull the plug on you since we're going over.
Okay, let me finish this one and then
we can see some more next week.
Yep. Beautiful. Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
Another lovely piece. So there's, yeah.
Hey, Duxbury, did you get your paper or your drawing?
I do have a drawing. This is kind of formal. I write for Woodturning magazine, so this is going to be
all right.
That's, or more than that, I got the piece. I draw it on the piece. Oh, no, I lost the piece. Anyway, I draw it on the piece. When you cut this out, you tape this piece back together. When you get all done, this comes off, and you've got the two cuts.
Right. Tape the one on, and then
right.
Yeah. Very good technique. Useful in a lot of ways. That's a very good use of it too.
Yeah, saves a lot of time. Anyway.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Dubs, why do you after you've cut the two sides, why do you tape that piece back on? And to make your next cut, to keep it from burring, or
once you've made your two cuts on the top, you end up with a piece of scrap. I lost the corner, but anyway, you end up with a piece of scrap, but your drawing is on that to cut the next side. So you tape this back on, turn it 90 degrees, and then cut through the scrap
for the drawing. Okay, gotcha.
Then you end up with two pieces like this that fall apart. I had to find these in the rubbish can.
In some applications, you would glue a whole side on to be able to lay it flat on the saw table too. That's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just tape it on. So yeah, it's a spacer on the. If this was a real long cut or something, you'd want that spacer on the saw table so you can make the cut on the bottom.
Okay. See you all next week. Thank you, everybody.
Great. Thank you. Great day.
Bye-bye.
John.
Bye-bye. Cheers, Jim.
Bye-bye.
See you
Thanks,
all.
everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cheers, Doug, Bert, Mike,
Cheers.
Jet, everyone
Bye-bye.
else. See you next week.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.